Alright, so I'm currently trying to platinum every single type of EA game that there is out there, and if I can't do it before the channel hits 1 million subscribers, then my punishment is I have to platinum Fortnite, one of the longest, hardest, and most grindy games of all time. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, today I chose to platinum Battlefield 5, which is the second to last game left in the Battlefield series that I have yet to complete, with the final one being 2042, as you would expect. But before we begin talking about Battlefield 5, I did want to let you all know that I made my final revision to the EA Games Challenge list, and I just went back through the EA Play games and found a few that I didn't see before. I didn't take anything out, just added in more because let's be honest, I've posted like 15 videos this month and I'm low-key cooking you guys. I feel bad, it's just not fair. I'm not even sleeping at this point. But anyways, yes, today I did platinum Battlefield 5 and this game is pretty much well received as a good Battlefield game. It's one of my personal favorites compared to previous entries in the franchise, and it's a lot better and more of a Battlefield game than Hardline is, which is the last Battlefield game I did make a video on a few days ago. But the platinum trophy and trophy list on Battlefield 5 is one of the most unusual trophy lists I've seen in recent games I've completed, and I say this because there's only 22 trophies including the platinum trophy on the game, with a mere 6 being from the campaign and just from beating it on a hardcore difficulty, and that alone. For some reason, EA didn't put in any war story specific trophies, challenge trophies, or even collectible ones, which is very odd considering they did in the other Battlefield games, and 5 has an even stronger way those work. Again, I don't think anyone understands why EA does what they do, but it's fine, I guess. Oh my god! However, aside from those 6 campaign trophies, every other trophy is just from multiplayer and mostly from progression, with one trophy in particular that is either the easiest in the game or the absolute most insane trophy in all of gaming, called Death from Above, which I'm not going to talk on too much right now because that's more of an endgame trophy, but just so you know, is coming to tickle our butt cheeks as I speak. So stage 1 to give me platinum is to, as I said, beat the campaign and do it all in hardcore difficulty, which is probably the hardest difficulty out of any campaign so far in the Battlefield series. And I should just say in the series in general, because as far as I know, 2042 has no campaign, which is unfortunate to say the least. But Battlefield 5's campaign opens up with a traditional Battlefield intro that is very similar to what we saw on Battlefield 1's campaign. And this game actually mirrors that one, quite literally having the same format, with it being all about war stories and not an actual written out story like Battlefield 4 has. Creativity really has just gone backwards since the golden days. It's very sad indeed. But the first war story in this game is called Under No Flag, and it follows a prison warden or guard throwing this younger dude in jail for robbing banks and unsuccessfully robbing them for that matter. But he basically offers the kid a job and then takes him on the road as a stealth op for the military. I have no idea how that really makes sense or why they aren't afraid he's just gonna bolt now that he's out of jail, but it's fine, it's fine. It's Battlefield 5's campaign. It might not be the smartest one we have seen so far. Anyways, again, speaking about just the format of this game's war stories, there's only 3 of them like I've said, but each one has multiple acts inside of each story, which make them all take about 1 to 2 hours to complete, with that length being elongated with deaths along the way. This first story, however, wasn't too bad when starting off. The initial goal was to sneak past all the enemies and get to an airfield to sabotage their planes with a remote explosive, and I would unfortunately get instantly exposed just how alert the enemy AI is in this game. If they have direct eyes on you, or not even direct, just any sort of visual on you at all, they zone in and you're basically f***ed if you're not already past them and running in another direction. So this made stealth very challenging to do. The best method I found throughout this campaign was to just try and hug the outer edges of the maps and lanes you had to travel down, because it made it so you were putting the most distance possible between you and certain death, and that's always a good idea just in life in general. This strategy, however, only worked when traveling to objectives, and it would end up failing my poor soul pretty much right away, because on this first story you had to break into a hangar and the entrance was hidden behind about 4 or 5 enemies, with one being a flamethrower enemy. I did also manage to find a suppressed sniper, which made this very easy to kill enemies with, although I was unaware that in World War II they already had bulletproof gas mask, and I shot the flamethrower guy about 7 times and he didn't even flinch. I really love the realistic avenue this game went down. But I basically just died over and over trying to take out all the enemies in this little area to sneak around to get to the window access of the hangar. Eventually, I kind of crashed that, and I was so frustrated it resulted in just going extremely off to the side, and I got lucky once I began to weed out the enemies because they didn't alert any alarms or other enemies in the area, which allowed me to waltz on over and into the hangar, placed the bomb, and I began to leave but got caught up leaving. Thankfully, our captain of sorts already rigged that bomb so it blew up and we ran to safety. However, unfortunately, during the cutscene that followed, the plane that we supposedly put a remote bomb on didn't work, and it just flew away ever so ominously right over our heads to then come back and shred us up like mozzarella cheese at an Italian's birthday party. Which brought us to the next little mini stage of this story. You get dropped into combat very suddenly, and I ended up getting overwhelmed and dying, which low-key kind of pissed me off because we just did the objective and now there's another annoying one. Little did I know that this is essentially how the game's campaign functions, so it's really nothing new. But I just angrily dashed to the furthest side, running like I've never ran before upon respawning, making it to an AA gun and then taking out all the planes coming after us. us, successfully doing so if that, and the story ended for the time being. There was then a little cutscene that showed the two arguing a little bit before an enemy soldier pulls up and they, at least I'm assuming, took his vehicle in a very peaceful way. You then begin the next act of this war story, and it's more of an open world one with 3 differing objectives and us needing to pretty much just go and destroy each of them or take something from them. And this is unfortunately a reoccurring theme in the Battlefield 5 campaign. Pretty much every war story besides the final one has a very similar or exact formula, and I honestly just found that very lazy from the developers, and it kind of made me feel like the Battlefield 5 campaign was just the bottom barrel war stories that they didn't have the time to throw into Battlefield 1, and it's a bit disappointing. Also, the objectives were incredibly hard because even after taking out the majority of enemies, completely stealth for that matter, I couldn't figure out how to blow up the objective, and once I did, it alerted every remaining enemy to me, and I was just cooked after that. And this did lead me to also developing yet again another method for this level of sorts, and the way I went about completing it the easiest way possible was to just go directly for the objective and not stop moving at all to shoot the AI soldiers unless absolutely needed. And blowing up each of the areas turned out to be a very simple challenge adopting this method. The only annoying thing was once I did fail a few times, the game begins to reorganize the AI layout. And by saying this, I mean it changes the amount and type of enemy that is in the area you were trying to destroy. I don't know why or how it does this, but it's f***ing annoying, let me tell you. But overall, this little portion of blowing things up wasn't horrible, and once I did do the tunnel vision objective method, also having a car to just drive away from enemies made it even more easy to complete. However, after doing all of that, our idiotic character we were playing as, the one who is a failed bank robber mind you, decided to radio back home and request exfil on a public radio channel, which in turn also alerted the enemy as to where we were, and they sent literally every single fucking person, tank, attack plane, everything. And I was basically left alone to fend off all of the incoming attackers, with that old dude just sitting atop a building basically being my gay cheerleader.
What did he say?
And this was thankfully the final part of this war story though, so once dying repeatedly and fending off the attacks, our forces found us and a giant ass naval ship saved the day, ending the story and getting us the first trophy of the game from beating it. I then began the next war story, which is called something very odd like Nordials, or I just called it Noodles when playing. But this one had us playing as a female character for once, W girl power, and we were infiltrating the enemy's heavy water facility, which is kind of code for just atomic bomb facility, to save our mother who was a main informant to how to produce such toxic materials. And for the majority of the level, you just sneak around. The game also did give us skis to use, which I thought was a very interesting choice. I'm not sure why they felt the need to do that, but hey, it was kind of fun to use. However, after stealthing your way for the most part to the facility, once inside, you just free good old mom because there is not a single enemy inside of here posted as a guard for God knows what reason. But then you do begin to escape with her. However, the damn stubborn woman decides we need to steal some info, which led to me combating a plethora of enemies being shoved down our throats. And also, she said we needed to stop the production and break all of their equipment, which again led to more killings. And I kind of feel like our mother is using us right now, I'm not gonna lie. This does not feel like equally returned love right now, and I'm gonna start tearing up in a second. But basically, all I have to do is just take out more enemies, naturally, as we know. Then I just flipped the switch in this electrical breaker, which somehow made them blow up. I feel like in real life, a little more effort might be needed to blow up an entire electrical system, but hey, I'm not an electrician. And after disabling the heavy water production, however, you have to rendezvous with Mother, and I'm not sure why the bitch just left us like that. I was only gone for a few minutes, for Christ's sake. But once just running back through the woods we previously snuck around in, you make it to her, and we got caught immediately. And after some conversation in the cutscene, it was going very poorly for us, so she just gave us this data drive and essentially threw us off of a mountain. The fall was not graceful at all, and I'm thinking it was a murder attempt. But we still had the satchel, and the goal is to deliver it to the dead drop so we can get the highly classified info to people that can actually do something with it. Long story short, the elements, however, would get the best of us, and we had to cross this frozen wasteland in the mountains with enemies scattered all around it. But to make it even more challenging, you can also die of hypothermia, and you need to sit by a fire every so often to get warm. But I would end up finding out an easy cheese to this, and this should just run as fast as possible past everyone, and then once you do die of hypothermia, unfortunately, it just spawns you at the nearest checkpoint, which is usually pretty graceful and far in the story. Do it enough times, make it to the end of the section, which ends off with the girl we play as just falling into freezing cold water. But don't worry, she was fine. Yep, it makes no sense at all. And also, she apparently had the strength after that to wander into a cabin, kill a man, and then fall asleep on his warm, bloody corpse till morning. Realism 5, my new favorite game. Upon waking up the next morning, though, this war story bleeds into having that exact same formulaic destroy 3 areas objective, and upon seeing this while I was playing, I got very sad inside. Because as I already said, this is the absolute laziest way to do a level in a video game, and doing it twice in a row thinking I wouldn't notice is honestly shameless. But I actually did manage to do them very quick, which was a W. The skis in this game have like crazy good movement, so that helped a lot. But after I did destroy all of the objectives, we had to rush into the little fortress, and we spotted Mom once inside, also getting shot at, which is typical man behavior behavior. Fucking pigs. Hashtag feminism. But then you do just begin to chase after them all, and I'm not sure why we chased after them so seriously because they stopped the trucks to fuck us anyway, so there really was no rush. And I did die upon them getting out, however, since I was not expecting the chase to just end like that. But once living through the combat encounter, that was basically for the story, and it quite literally just ends off with our mama blowing herself up and the ship she was on to avoid the bad guys from getting away with the toxic materials. Such an L ending, I can't lie, but here's the trophy from beating it. So we are now into the final war story, and this is in my opinion my least favorite in terms of story. All three of them, however, kind of had a weak story and got worse each time. But this one in particular just had us playing as the French, which is a massive L to begin with. I mean, come on, dude, it's the French. But the gameplay was basically just us taking over enemy outposts over and over and over, and then defending them over and over and over after taking them over. You get the point. And you do all of that just to reach the final takeover objective, being this castle of sorts, which was pretty cool, but still very boring. I also don't know if there was any significance of anything we just did, so I kind of feel like EA just needed another episode to this campaign. But once I did beat it, I got the trophy from beating it, as you do. Then 3 trophies, as a matter of fact, which were all just difficulty trophies from beating the game on normal, hard, and hardcore. And they all popped, as you can see, which was a W, since some players in the past have reported them not and glitching out, but I was in the clear. So with that all said and done, I then began stages 2 and 3, which I know are actually 3 and 4, but the guy creator made stage 1 the dumbest thing ever, so just go with it, please. But these are just the multiplayer stages of trophies, and almost all the trophies in multiplayer are gotten through natural play, besides 1 or 2 that require you to go very much out of your way. The first trophy I did chase down was called Globetrotter, from playing on every launch map inside of Conquest, which is the primary game mode that Battlefield 5 has players on in 2025. And during that overall grind, which took quite a while because one match of Conquest takes about 30 minutes, I did chase down some other trophies. First, going for 10 kills with a secondary to knock it out easily, and I actually got a trophy called Last Man Standing by having 3 squad members spawn in on me, which is very natural since squad spawning is the primary way you respawn in this game. I then got 10 kills in my first round, as you do, which was a trophy itself. And then after getting 1 more secondary kill, I got my 10th secondary kill for that trophy as well, which also popped right here. I then searched through the trophy guide for any more easy trophies to knock out while I was already doing them on this first match, ending up with a trophy called Combat Engineer from building 10 fortifications in a round. Now at first I was lost as to what this meant, but if you press the D-pad in a certain direction, it brings up a building mode while playing as the assault class, and you can make literal structures with it near objective points. And I just absolutely spammed it until getting 10 for the trophy once figuring out how to even do it to begin with. I was then promoted to squad leader a little bit later after a few of my so amazing teammates left or rage quit, and this allowed me to now use these point type things that are acquired from just getting kills and scores in matches. But you can use them to call in boosts from airdrops like ammo, which is the cheapest, but also airstrikes and smoke bombs. And I just called in ammo twice though, because there's a trophy from just calling in 2 reinforcements in 1 round, so that's neat. I then just kept on playing as you do, and only 5 minutes after that last trophy, I got my 30th total kill for another trophy called Grim Reaper. Very ominous. And I would unfortunately then get no more trophies for multiple hours because that was basically all of the easy ones done with, and I just began to play the game normally, trying my best to get new maps for the Globetrotter trophy, which was a bit annoying since there isn't a tracker for it, and I ended up losing track of the maps I've done, which was indeed unfortunate. But again, with that overall objective of just playing on 8 different launch maps, there's also numerous XP trophies in this game's online play, and this is also very similar to Battlefield 1's trophy list. In that game, there's also a lot of experience trophies being the main structure of its online, but this time they aren't nearly as long. It just required us to get rank 11 on every class for around 100,000 XP for a trophy called Jack of Trades, and then after that you have to get about 100,000 more XP for the final experience trophy called Elite. And 500,000 XP, by the way, is at around player level 25 from my experience later on, so that's kind of the entire Battlefield 5 trophy list now outlined that we have remaining. And after, as I said, playing for numerous hours, I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm gonna boost a few of these online trophies, because boosting in this game is suggested for a few of them, and quite honestly needed. There is also an absolutely genius boosting method I found online from a dude named, this. I don't know, it's just nonsense. Bro, it's probably schizophrenic to be honest. But in his forum, it explained how to literally boost every single trophy in multiplayer and how to do it. Battlefield 5 also doesn't have a renting server feature like previous Battlefield games, which at first was kind of tragic, but it got replaced with community servers and anybody can make those. And at first I scuffed up making these for a few rounds, but to make them count for trophies and progression, you generally need no password. And that for some reason makes the game counted as a public lobby with progression enabled. And once I did figure it all out, I asked my boyfriend, Its Ilusion lover, and a few of his friends to hop on their PlayStations to begin boosting these trophies, beginning with the easiest of all, called Fender Bender from road killing 5 enemies. Probably the easiest of the trophies getting boosted because running over enemies isn't hard, and I just did it 5 times with my boyfriend, Its Ilusion lover, acting as a spawn point for the other player, so I could just reverse back into them over and over and over like the Killdozer reincarnated. Once getting 5 kills, the trophy popped right here. And I also quickly got a trophy after that from fully suppressing 5 enemies. And this is a very odd trophy, but you just have to spam your gunshots back and forth between the enemy sides without hitting them until they get suppressed, I guess. I still don't really understand it, but the trophy popped anyways. I then began to grind out the hardest trophy in the game by far, called Death from Above. And this trophy is the platinum breaker of Battlefield 5 because of how challenging and honestly near impossible it is in normal play of the game, but it's from destroying 5 manned stationary weapons with an airplane. And this just for the most part means blowing up 5 AA guns as a person is on them. But my god, doing this even with boosting, I could barely get it done. And that's because playing combat in this game is kind of cancer. I mean, it sucks, like it just sucks. Also, when attacking a person manning an AA gun for that matter, killing them by themselves and not actually destroying the entire gun is a much more common occurrence, and I did that numerous times on poor Its Ilusion lover. So when going for this, you have to absolutely make sure you see the pop-up telling you that a destruction of stationary weapon occurred before moving on to another one. I made that mistake a few times, which elongated this grind of a trophy, and it did indeed take me multiple hours to get this even with boosting. But eventually, I did do it, and I never want to fly a plane again. And with that done, the trophies left are all very self-explanatory for the most part, and the first one I got was just from getting 10 revives on squad mates. I already had a few from normal play, so only a couple more were needed, and once getting the 10, the trophy also did pop. I then followed the boosting forums method for the Frontlines trophy, which from my understanding, this mode is now dead in 2025 and not even included in the game's actual play, but you can just farm it by placing one team of players on a point, then the other team on another, and the points will literally just bounce back and forth between you two because you need to capture them all for the game's objective. And it did take me about an hour, however, to get 10 flags, just due to how long it takes for that mode to play out. But once doing 10, the trophy popped easily. I then unfortunately spent 2 hours straight playing maps on my community server, trying to desperately figure out what launch maps I hadn't played yet, because I could have sworn I did them all and I convinced myself the trophy was glitched, which it very well might have been. And online comments didn't help considering they all said the same thing. But I think I was just missing this one weird map that started with an R. And once I finished that one up, the trophy Globetrotter did pop, which was a giant W. I was very worried it was glitched. This game has reports of being way too troublesome for some players over the years with glitched trophies. But the final 3 trophies I had left in Battlefield 5 were just those XP trophies from getting 150,000 score as a player in general, then 100,000 score on each class, and finally 500,000 score on your player again in general. Now this is a lot still to do, especially just playing the game normally, but thankfully again on this boosting forum there's a method to get an absolute shitload of experience per match. And it's from playing a mode called Outpost and then having one player build a radio tower, which is just the objective, then the other player places a bomb on it, and the player who just built the tower defuses the bomb, and you get like 400 XP per defuse. Then you just keep repeating that cycle over and over and over and over. And my god, this is an insane method for XP. I think on average I got about 120,000 to 140,000 XP points per match, but granted they did last like 45 minutes, so it wasn't a fast match by any means. And even doing this method, it did still take me about 5 to 6 hours of pure boosting to get the required XP I needed for the trophies, which low-key sucked. And I also stayed up till 3 AM getting these because I didn't want to go to sleep unsatisfied. But yeah, I just used this method to get the XP, shamelessly, I know, but I got all the trophies after a while, and it did take a while still. But here's that final elite trophy and the platinum trophy popping. So that was the Battlefield 5 platinum trophy experience. Huge thanks to Its Ilusion lover and his friends for helping me out. Seriously, couldn't have been done without you. I love unpaid labor. But yeah, Battlefield 5 overall is an okay game. I kind of do feel as if it's just a lesser developed and loved version of Battlefield 1. The two games are basically the same thing, just with this game being less good and almost boring a little bit with how much it is just the same thing. But still, I do think it's a good game and better than Battlefield Hardline, so who's to judge? I'm not sure when I'll grind out 2042, but that will be posted in the coming weeks so I can finish up this saga of Battlefield games, and yeah, I'm tired as f, so I'm gonna go to bed now.